That's better. So how we can articulate leadership and to some extent management. And it's something that I'm asked a lot about every time I work with postdocs when it comes to looking at job applications. And what is the strange thing is that they go, oh, it says I must have leadership skills or I must have management experience. And you all do have, but it can feel a little like this. So is it the chicken, which came first, the chicken or the egg? How can I get management skills when I haven't been a manager? How can I then progress to a management role so I can get those skills? And likewise with leadership. I'm going to blitz us through this morning, really just to emphasize that you do have these things. You absolutely do. So, the image also includes bunnies because I've got a couple of house rabbits at home, 3 in fact. So I thought I'd pop those on there. But that chicken and egg scenario, how can we do that? And importantly, how can we take the skills and experiences that you already have and be able to put them articulately on our CVs? So I just was working the other day with some environmental scientists finishing off their PhDs, and we were talking about this very problem. And so I thought I'd pull up a few job adverts, see what are we wrestling with. And so this one is for an environmental sustainability manager role, and we've got where does leadership come in? It comes in here at the bottom. So you will also need excellent leadership capacity to oversee and manage team members in the delivery of programs and projects, providing an opportunity for individual members to make a contribution, etc., etc., etc. Now, you might not have been called a leader or a manager, but you have definitely at some point worked with others towards delivering programs and projects. And if you've done that successfully, then chances are you've already provided that opportunity for individual members. So despite the fact that we haven't got our experience labelled as such, we do have some experience. And it's about not saying something that we aren't, so not saying CEO when we're not, but making sure that we can really bring our skills to the fore. My next job was where it says lead in the title, and this can put people off. And they go, wow, I'm not a lead in this. So this one's a lead for environmental digital science. They're all environmentally themed because I was working with such lovely people the other day. But if we actually go down into the essential requirements, then they're highly skilled in the use of digital technologies, proven track record in publishing, demonstrable understanding of the tools and infrastructure required, etc., etc. Nowhere does it say, essentially, you must have led a massive team. And yet that job title might have put us off. So always, always, always drill down into the essential and desirable characteristics of the applicant that they need on the job description. Chances are you will have most of those. Bear in mind that these are written for angelic beings who do not exist. So you need to think, okay, I've got a good set of those. I've got 60 to 70%. Could be worth investigating this a little bit further. But don't be put off where it says lead. Okay, you can take the lead. You don't necessarily have to have been a leader or an official manager before we go for these jobs. But then I thought, why not? Let's have a look at a leadership job. That one very definitely is. So I picked CEO of the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency. But why I looked at that one was not, you'll be ready for a CEO job coming out of your first or second postdoc. Wait a couple of years for that to happen. But it was more, let's see what they're looking for. Okay, let's see what a really big leader, a chief executive officer really needs to have. So we've got understanding and appreciation of complex and high-level stakeholder environment Okay. Chances are you've worked with other people. So stakeholders are anyone who's interested in your research. Bring a natural ability to develop effective partnerships across public, private, and third sector. So again, it's that working with others. Have strong experience of developing and delivering a strategic vision and leadership of a successful team. Again, thinking if we downscale this a little bit to postdoc land, thinking, when have you led on a project? When have you worked with other people? When have you set the agenda? And we do that every time we embark on an experiment. We set the strategic direction. Why are we doing this? It fits into a research question. That's our strategy. So we have these things day in, day out, but we very seldomly call them leadership and management skills. So yes, this is a very senior role, but we are day in, day out building the skills that could lead us to this type of role. Okay. I pulled out sort of a top 8 leadership qualities or leadership, they would be on that essential and desirable criteria. And these are pretty common across lots and lots of leadership articles that I looked at. And most of them you have. In fact, I would say that all of them you have. And so one job sort of when, kind of you're finishing off your cuppa after having a look at this is to think, right, okay, what are my communication skills? We have so many as researchers. We are constantly communicating for everything from a very simple email to social media to the big things that we might think about, like writing, presenting, giving talks, all those sorts of things. So we have a lot of communication skills. And where this boils down to is actually the majority of leadership is tied into that good communication with other people, that active listening, bringing things back. So thinking about how you could hone your communication skills, but also writing down everything that you do in that sphere. You'd be amazed if you start jotting down, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Organisation, if you've managed to get through a PhD, congratulations. If you're a postdoc, chances are you are already quite organised. So this isn't just time, but it's organising projects. It might be organising data. It could be organising people. Again, it's one of those things that we do day in, day out, but we tend not to label it as such. This morning, I sat down and worked out everything that I needed to do and kind of came up with a timetable. Basic organisation, but it is a skill. How do you organise your day? How do you organise your team? How do you organise the people who work with you? So as part and parcel of setting up that day, it's thinking about the communications I need to have with my virtual assistant, with my accountant. You will have people in your lives that you need to communicate with. And again, it comes back to that top one. Problem solving. Let's not dwell on this, shall we? Because we're researchers, we solve problems. But you definitely have that. When it comes to articulating these, is to think about mini case studies. Okay, so problem solving. Yes, I'm a researcher, I do that. That's not going to be enough for a potential employer to really get the hang of, to really be able to understand what it is that you bring to the organisation. If you think about making a little mini case study of a time where you solved a problem, then that is brilliant. First of all, if it's short and sweet, it can go on your application, but then they're also great for when you get to interview. So when someone says, tell me about a time where you've solved a problem. Oh, this one. A great format for all these is the CAR format. So what were the circumstances? What were the actions that you took, because it's you that I'm going to employ? And what were the results? So hopefully picking some positive results. In my experience, the researchers tend to do the first two. So outline the situation, give me the actions that they took, but then they forget, actually, I need to know the results. I need to know the happily ever after on that one. So making sure that you use those frameworks. Coaching and mentoring. Again, you might think, well, I'm not a coach. I'm not senior enough to be a mentor. But if you've had a conversation with the undergrad in your lab who's doing a project and you've nurtured them along, then you have done coaching and mentoring. It's making sure that we recognize what we do day in, day out. You will have coaching and mentoring. You might not have a formal qualification. And again, this is where researchers get caught up. It's like, well, I haven't got the bit of paper that says I'm a coach, or I haven't signed up to the institutional mentoring, so therefore I'm not a mentor. You can be these things. And you probably do it day in, day out, providing advice to your colleagues, having a chat over coffee about careers. All those things are coaching and mentoring to a certain extent. Delegation. This is a tough one because quite often, as a busy postdoc in a lab, it might feel that we need to delegate things, but perhaps we don't. But thinking about how you would set about giving a task to a junior colleague. So that master's student who's in your lab, how do you set about giving them something that they can go away and do that takes something off your plate that also benefits them? Delegation is hard. It's taken me a long time to try and delegate things, but I am getting better. It's something out of this list that I think everyone has to work at. Relationship building, again, this will be something that you naturally do. But if I ask you for an example, you might think, oh. So thinking about how you go about making friends in your field. If you want to perhaps go on a research visit, how would you go about that? What do you do? How do you build that relationship so that someone is happy for you to come into their lab for 2 or 3 weeks for a research visit? What do you do? What are the steps? Really important to sort of break that down. Start thinking about it. And if this is something that you perhaps are weak on, is thinking about how you can build that into, your day-to-day practice. So relationship building could be as simple as connecting to people on Twitter or on LinkedIn, or just emailing someone and starting those conversations, building that know, like, and trust. We don't immediately tend to buy things. We'll sort of, people will drip feed us and we'll get used to the product, and then we'll think, okay, yeah, I'll probably buy it now. So thinking about how you build that relationship. Motivation of yourself, but also motivation of others. So motivation, a great motivation question is, why do you do what you do? And if you haven't got a great answer for that as a postdoc, then I do separate career coaching. So just give us a ring. But thinking about how you motivate yourself to do what is a very difficult job. Research isn't easy. How do you motivate yourself? How do you motivate others? How do you understand what would motivate others? So again, we're coming back to that top communication, talking, asking, building relationships, and then understanding, actually, if I have a master's student who is doing some science in my laboratory but wants to go into financial services afterwards, then actually what I probably need to expose them to is lots of data analysis and lots of perhaps day-to-day mathematics, so that they've got something really meaty on their CV that can then help them with their next step. So, the biggest thing that leaders and managers need to understand is what motivates us won't necessarily be the motivations for our staff. Not everyone is built the same, thankfully. And the last one is adaptability. I think the past 2 years have really seen us have our resilience and adaptability muscles stretched, possibly almost to breaking point. But again, it comes back to, rather than just saying, oh, the pandemic, yeah, we're super adaptable, is what did you do? How did you go about adapting? What were the circumstances, what were the actions you took, and what were the results? So again, that CAR framework, really, really key. When it comes to writing these down on our CV, slurp of coffee, then we need some really action-orientated verbs. CVs can be quite dull, let's face facts. So you need to enliven them. You need to give me a spirit of who you are in a paper document. And one of the ways that you can do that is to use really active verbs. Now, some of these, if you put them all in, I think it would read like a buzzword. We used to play buzzword bingo in our lab. I think it would read like that, and it would be a disaster. So use them selectively, but you do need to use these active verbs because it gives me an idea that you are an action taker, a zesty action taker, as one of my friends says. So spearheaded might seem a bit over the top for you, but initiated. You probably have initiated projects. You might then have, initiated a multidisciplinary research project across 4 countries using interdisciplinary researchers. That is a brilliant sentence, and one that is very, very common with the people that I work in. Reduced. So I reduced the time it took for a program to run by 50%, which meant that we could in real time watch our patients' data or something. So again, you need to tie it to a result. So numbers are good. So reduced by 50%. That's a good quantifiable, but then thinking about the effect that that had as well. So just don't put overhauled programming. That doesn't, again, tell me anything. But you might have overhauled a health and safety sequence for the lab, which resulted in no accidents throughout 2022. Something like that. Mitigated, again, we are in the business of mitigating risks as researchers, but how did you do it and what effect did it have? What were the results? Position, transitioned, etc. The first column is all probably about leadership, and we can be a thought leader, we can be a leader in our discipline without actually having the badge of, provost of a university. So, we're in the privileged position to have disciplines, to have departments, to have universities. We could be leaders in different ways throughout our careers. But the first column is leadership words. The second column is more to do perhaps with management. Quite often these are called soft skills. I think these are some of the hardest skills out there. But thinking about mentored, developed, galvanized. I love the word galvanized. So when have you galvanized the student interaction? Upskilled, motivated, inspired, and coached. Some amazing words there. But making sure that whatever word you use, they are the active ones. You could be as simple as led. After all, we were talking about leading and managing. So led and managed would be fine as well. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this morning's Career-puccino. If you are watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe to our channel. It makes me do a little happy dance every time someone does. And if I can help in any way through my career coaching, online courses, or if you just want to chat, then my websites will let you do that. So do get in contact. Otherwise, have an amazingly fantastic week, but think about your leadership and management skills throughout. You've got many more than you think you do have.